Hi everyone, welcome to Rick's 1/35 scale models. This is another build and review on this Trumpeter kit. It's a 1/35 scale Bundeswehr version of the MLRS or Mars Mittler Artillery Raketen System, and I probably got that all wrong, but I tried. Anyway, let's take a look at the kit. So like all Trumpeter kits, the box itself is real sturdy, the lid and the bottom part. And then Trumpeter is probably one of the better boxers of models. All the model parts are all in these separate little plastic bags. I did remove all these parts for the review. So this component here is going to have most of your parts for your rocket box area. The sliding parts here for the rails that go in and out to remove and install more ammunition. One thing I'll say right up front, in the build, you're going to want to take the grooves here and really sand them out real good. Make sure the parts fit inside smoothly, even considering after you paint it. I did everything I could to make the rails that slide in here work, but with these being so tight and the fit so tight, it just didn't work. So on this build here, I'm going to definitely sand these out a lot better and make it work better. So this component here, you're going to get part of the chassis and the base of your rocket launching components along with your chain. Here's your door section and the other components that go in the body itself. One of the things the Trumpeter is notorious for, which it works out okay, is they have lots of sprue pieces. The plastic's great, everything works great, but you have a lot of cleanup to do. On this kit here, I noticed they're pretty good at putting these in such a way to where they came off easily without having to do a whole lot of work to clean it up. So the next component is going to have two sprue pieces identical. You're going to have parts of your bogey wheels and lower parts along with the rails. These are the parts I was saying you're going to have to work on to slide inside the other part. As is, they fit really tight, and it's almost impossible to get them in without sanding on them. So definitely sand these before you glue them, and then the other rail, make sure you work on that. These are all components of that loading and unloading device. The other neat thing is, if you're building multiple kits, the Germans use a little bit different mud flap here, so you're going to have some extra ones of those. So here's going to be part of your rocket pod system along with your antennas. Now, one of the things I always do is I take piano wire and put that in instead of this. So this works out real well. You just cut this little part off. Trying to get a better look at it here. So you're going to take and cut the little top piece off, and then you can drill a hole in there and install the metal rod. It works out real well. So here's going to be your bogey wheels. As you can see, you've got two different sprue pieces. Interesting thing they did on this kit is, here's the black portion of it, and then here's the interior part, but you're still going to have to paint the inside of the lip here where the metal actually is still. But it does make it building a little different. I left these in the packaging still, but here's your two rocket pods and all the components that go with that, along with your cleats that go on the roof of the rocket launching device. Here's going to be your windows and other components. So it worked out okay, but here'd be my only negative side of the kit. Here's the tracks. So you have all the little interior parts here that you install. You have to cut all those off and glue them in the center of here. And then these all snap together, but they don't stay together. So after you get it kind of semi-snapped, you have to glue it in sections to then build the track components. So here's going to be the big difference here. Your European version of the Bundeswehr uses. You've got your side skirts, a different grill set up here. You've got your little cage area for the commander, along with your follow me tags and your beacon they put on all the vehicles when traveling, along with the reflector plates that go on the front here, and the different mud skirts that go on the back. So here's going to be your chassis area. The cab is all one piece, very well detailed, lots of good quality here. Your lower chassis area, the bottom plate for the lower chassis area, the driver's component, and the top shell for your rocket system. So you're going to have your PE sheet with multiple metal parts. They actually bend together quite well. The only difficult parts are these components right here, because there's several weird bends in them and they're real short, but it worked out well. Just take your time. Then you're going to have your decals. I leave them in the plastic because I always end up messing them up when I don't. But they're good quality. They come off well. Just a few minutes of soaking in the water and they stick pretty good. Lots of options here. There's a lot of decals in the vehicle, internally and externally. So follow the instructions and watch it, and just take your time. The other neat component is on the rocket launcher, the hydraulics, they have metal tubes that you slide the plastic inside. So once it's built, it looks real sharp. So let's go through the instructions. Good quality, everything went to go well. All the parts are pretty straightforward as far as the instructions go. Give you a nice description of all your parts, looking for your different pieces, etc. And then you start doing your build, going through it step by step. This is what I was telling you about. You stick these on the inside, then you have to paint this little part here to make it work out. Building the axles, all this. It went together well. You just have to kind of watch your alignment, and they want to shimmy this way and that, not really much up and down because of the way they're built. One of the other things that I do love about Trumpeter, Hobby Boss the same way, they give a great set of paint instructions, and as anyone who does German knows, all the vehicles have the exact same paint scheme, so they give a pretty good detail on how to paint it. A couple different versions, but the paint's the same, where to put all the decals, etc. And then going through and building the tracks. Now, I did it a little differently, and in retrospect, I should have kind of followed this. When you build the tracks, what I would suggest is build all the tracks, get all this lower portion painted, build the tracks, paint them, install them, then put your flaps on, because if you don't, you'll be fighting that to get them around there. The way it works, it's real snug and tight. And as you go through, you start building the interior components on this little plate. Lots of detail in here, different things you need to work on. Going through the seats, etc., all the details. These are a little tricky putting them together. They want to wiggle a lot, but it goes together well once you start getting it all together. All these parts here went and fit quite nicely. They kind of hang precariously, but after you get to assembling the rest of it, it all goes together perfectly as if it's a well-oiled model. And Trumpeter, that's what you would expect. Continuing to build the cab, etc. Here's some of the parts. You put these, I believe, fire extinguisher or ventilation, something or the other, I'm not sure what they are. They go inside the door, then you glue the door shut. There's no way to make it hinge open and close. So if you're building a diorama and you want the hatch open, there's that option, but you still have to do the interior components. Different ventilations, exhaust system where the motor goes, your shovel, PE piece here. This is kind of tricky. The instructions, if you look closely, you can figure it out, but just take your time and go about the bends, etc. The grill here, it's another part. There's not a lot of areas to glue it, so be real careful. Glue just the edges very lightly, because if you glue the center, you'll end up messing your grill up and you won't be able to see through it. All the interior parts, all these to go together, you've got to kind of get the light just right, because they've got these little markings that are really hard to see unless you get the angle right to where you put all these different sensors, etc. that go up inside. Hard to see once you build the model, but if you look up and or leave the doors open, you'll definitely have to notice them. The other portion here is they have a lot of placarding that goes inside the vehicle. So as you build it, you're going to want to paint the parts and get the placarding on, because like I said, you can look through the window and see all these different details. I got them under a magnifying glass, and it's really high quality details. I mean, I have really good vision and I can't read them, but definitely they did a good job there. Continuing on through the model and all the different components, etc. Like I said, everything goes together well, but take your time, let parts dry before you go to the next section or you'll mess it all up. Another piece is putting the cab together. This piece kind of goes together differently. It's at an angle, so when you go to glue it on, dry fit it first for sure, and then glue it, so you make sure you know how it goes on, or you'll definitely have trouble. The only option they don't give you here, which would have been nice if you could make these open or close. With some modifications, you could easily do that, but they don't give you the choice. And they're not even movable hinges on the roof hatch here, or these along with the door. It's all glue in, glue out, one way or the other. Coming down to here, this went together well. All the parts fit. A little bit of challenges in the front here, so you're going to definitely have to clamp it or hold it for a while so it glues down. But it definitely fits nicely. Just like I said, dry fit it first and make sure you got every angle right. and you should have no problems. So here you are. They got little parts here, details. Once you look at the part, you can kind of figure out where it goes here, but you've got to kind of play around looking at it to make sure you notice it. And pay attention too, because they have a lot of parts here that you may not see because of the angles and everything. But just it'll go together. Just take your time and keep looking. Other little components, etc. Here's another part. They show little boxes as if it's got a way to mark it, but they're really not there. So when you go to glue it, kind of look at it, look at a real picture maybe, or look at the model, and you'll kind of get an angle on it. Then you'll see how it glues on before you glue it. When you come down to building the rocket portion, this part's another one. Really take your time and sand. There's a little bit of a mold issue, I would say, with some of the parts. So, dry sand everything. Make sure it fits just right and snug and square before you glue it. These parts right here were the only parts I noticed that there were some issues. The way the plastic came out of the mold, it had a slight angle, so you've got to kind of sand it flat to make it fit real snug and proper. But with a little bit of work, it goes together. And like I said, make sure you hone these out. If you're going to make it to where you can slide the rails in and out here, make sure you sand inside here and get that a little bigger and nice and square, and test your fits before you glue it in there, or you'll be hating it afterward. And here's your building part of the rail system that I'm talking about. So here's the parts I was saying you need to sand also. Sand these rails before you glue them on, because there's little parts that stick down here that are part of the device that the rockets mount to. You don't want to glue this part here on before you sand this, or you'll end up sanding those off, or it'll be a lot harder to sand if you don't. This is another part here. You got to kind of open these up a little bit to make them fit better, because of the way these angle work, it'll end up bowing these outward, and then it won't fit square. But just take your time. So going through building the rockets, etc. If you look at the instructions really closely, you'll notice there's a difference between the top and the bottom of this part. The back one, it's got little markings to where you can only glue it one way, but this one, if you're not careful, you can glue it upside down. So pay attention to that as you build it. Going through here, these pop in. They're real tight, but they do pop in. Just gently slide them in slowly but surely, and they go in really well. And then here's how the rockets go in and out. These parts here slide in and out, and the rockets attach to them. You can either glue it or not glue it in. It's up to you. When it comes time to do the top shell, this is a really delicate part back here. It fits together nicely. Glue it, let it sit overnight, definitely dry before you go to glue it the rest around, or it'll pop off and you'll end up getting glue marks all over the place. You got little parts here. There's another one. Get them in a really good light to see these little markings they have. They're really faint. And you get to this point. So here's another tricky part. Now, they don't make it to where you can open or close it. So if you want to be able to remove the rockets or have these slide in and out, which you can, build these parts, make sure they sand right so that they fit in and out and you can move them. Then what you can do is you can take a little bit of tape on the inside here and here, and then create your own little hinge. It's not going to be awesome, but it'll definitely get the job done. And the way it flips up, you'll never see the tape. Here's another part. When you're bending these, be real careful. Take your time. Like, they're a little tricky, but with some patience, they work out just fine. And then there's your final parts. Drops in, turns, and it's over with. That's the building component. So like I said, the Trumpeter does a really good job of their paint schemes. The plastic, I don't wash the plastic or anything. What I use is, to me, is fine primer. I started using this red to give it a rust look in case you actually scrape the paint off. And then after I paint that, let it dry, I use the, to me, is acrylic, native brown, native green, native black. It works out well. So here's a look at the Mars rocket pods and the rails that move them in and out for loading and reloading, along with the covers that go in front. And then here's a look at the detail inside. Give an idea of all the different components that go into there. And looking at the underside, a better look at the mounting, etc. So here's the completed model done in the Bundeswehr German paint scheme and markings. It looks nice, a very sharp kit, high detail, amazing quality. Let's kind of run through an overview of how it looks. You have your beacon location here, some tools, etc., equipment, your tracks, your step stool, your side skirts. Back you're going to see the rear side of the rockets, the German follow me indicators, unit markings, license plates, etc. The other side, same thing, a little different. Some of the different details that the Germans have on their vehicles. And you get an idea of the top side. In the center you're going to have the add-on track pieces for when you're in the ice and snow. Hatch, they also have the rail up here. Headlights, turn signals, etc. And look at the inside here, trying to get the computer screen they have in the center for the center seat. You have some of the railing, footsteps, tubing, etc. I got an angle here. You can see there's some placarding they put behind the driver's seat. It's kind of hard to see, but once you build the kit, you'll see all the details. And the inside of the driver's area, the steering wheel with the dash. But you can see here, when the rockets are raised, all the details underneath, the tubing, etc. I did a little bit of weathering to kind of give a dusty look inside there, and in here came out okay. Not 100% pleased with it, but it looks okay. Kind of did with it, transitioned and ready to fire, what it looks like. Although the driver's hatch is down, they flipped that up, but still gives it the effect. Big kit, nice quality. I enjoyed building it. So as usual, when I paint, I use the Tamiya fine primer. I started using this primer red color. I like it because if you get a little bit of areas where it comes through, you see it, it almost looks like a little bit of rust. It works out nice. And then the acrylic Tamiya NATO green, NATO brown, NATO black, and I use a Paasche airbrush. Very pleased with this. Once again, it's really nice. If you're going to get an airbrush, I strongly recommend going with this brand. You'll be very happy with it. So then doing a little comparison here. This is a Dragon version of the same model. This is the original Dragon kit, which did not come with any of the German add-ons, such as the railing up here, the warning placards they put in the front on either side, the skirting here in the front, and then the side skirting along the sides, along with the warning beacon that the Germans put on. And then also on this side there's tubing they have here, which you can see on the Trumpeter kit. The Dragon kit's about half the parts. It's a lot easier, quicker build, but you definitely are not getting the level of quality. Like I said before, the Trumpeter kit has over 800 parts, where the Dragon kit's somewhere around 300. So a lot more detail. Just kind of get a general idea of the difference in the two vehicles. The front, the different quality and depth of detail. A little bit of an idea of the inside. Not a lot of difference on the inside, although when you build the kit you will see definitely more detail you put in. It's almost sad to have the inside of the Trumpeter kit all sealed up because you can't see most of the detail. And then when you have this raised up. You can see a lot better quality on the Trumpeter kit versus the Dragon kit. So my final opinion of this kit is it's an outstanding kit. It's what you would expect from a Trumpeter model. It is very pricey, as I said before, but after you build it, you'll understand why. It's nice. It lends a lot of options for diorama building. If you're into that, if you want to do some weathering, there's a lot of options there. If you want to do it with the rockets in or the rocket pods out, you have that option. Definitely not a weekend kit. It'll take you a couple of weeks to put together, unless you do it full time and just really get on it. I enjoy just taking my time. As I said before, and I'll say it again, if you're going to build this kit, spend a little bit of time looking through the kit before you start building it, double checking all the parts, spend some time getting online, looking at pictures of the real vehicles, and really think through which versions and which options you want to go with. It'll let you do it, but it doesn't have like the opening and closing of the hatches some kits have, etc. Anyway, there's my model build. Hope you enjoyed it. See you on the next one, and please subscribe. Take care. Bye-bye.